Mark Zuckerberg has been the latest to come out against DEI. And so I just wanted to have this conversation with you all night tonight around strategy. Welcome. Let's go from the DEI backlash to the big payback, shall we? Let's talk about where we go from here. Welcome as you come into the room. Excited to have you here. Hey there, all my peeps on Instagram. It's quite ironic that I'm talking right now to Instagram, especially, and Facebook, but I'm also on LinkedIn and YouTube all at the same time. But I wanted to reach everybody here in all of these different spaces while I'm in all of these different spaces so that we can talk strategy about what's next, how we got here, why this is important, the full implications of everything that's happening around DE&I. And I want you to understand that, especially if you are a Black business owner, this impacts you whether or not you're specifically in the DE&I industry. And I'm going to explain to you why in a few minutes. And then I want to talk about what we do next, okay? So as you come into the room, say hi. Please do share this stream. Please do share this stream. This is going to be very important. I have a lot to say, you guys. I'm not going to get through everything tonight. I will look to meet you back on here tomorrow night as well, okay? At least for the next few days, I want to be going live to sort of keep you up to speed with the strategy that we need to put in place moving forward for our businesses, for our future. And before I get into that, first of all, hi. Nice to see you all here. In case I am brand new to you, my name is Dr. Avis. I come to you by way of an interesting mix of backgrounds. I am, yes, an entrepreneur, the owner and the CEO of a very successful coaching company that also has sort of agency elements. We help entrepreneurs understand not only how to build wildly successful seven-figure businesses and people who are looking to start their businesses all the way up to seven figures and beyond. But we help them with actually making sure that they get the visibility that they need in order to be successful, have those super sort of high ticket offers. I really specialize in making sure that Black women get paid. I guess that's the very simple way of saying what I do. Thank you, and an amazing thought leader. I appreciate that. Okay. I do come here by way of a long history, having to do with a lot of research, writing, thought leadership work around Black women and our conditions. I used to also work in the sort of policy and politics space. I used to specifically work in the DE&I space, you guys. For those who have been following my career for quite a while. Hey there, Sean, good to see you. I had a DE&I company that was one of the first iterations of my business. It wasn't the first. I first started working as a consultant in sort of the Washington, D.C. Space, research space. But from them, I transitioned into DE&I. And I want to be honest with you right now about why I transitioned out. Okay, before we get into the main thrust of why we're having this live tonight. The reason why I transitioned out, I think we're really seeing it come to fruition right now. Okay. One of the things I will say about me is one of my gifts is I have a really good feeling about energy. I know ahead of time when things are going to happen. I trust my gut. And I will say that when I was in the DE&I work, this was doing DE&I work. This was many years ago, well before the the Michael Brown sort of uprising. It was before, I think it was before that, but I know it was before the George Floyd travesty, really. And that's when it really exploded and a lot of new people started going into the space. I was in and out well before George Floyd started. And the reason why I transitioned out of that space, to be perfectly honest with you, is because it was my feeling that a lot of companies were basically just checking the box, right? That they really did not have a strong, authentic, very, very grounded in, just honesty, a true commitment to the principles of diversity and inclusion. And it was very frustrating to me to see very little movement in terms of what I would call, organizational apartheid when we're talking about having diversity in the upper echelons of government, well, government too, but especially of those institutions, organizations, corporations. They tend to remain very, 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 very overwhelmingly represented by white men. And so even though there was a desire to have trainings and a desire to have specifically unconscious bias trainings, especially back then, because that made people feel okay. And it made people not have to talk about conscious bias, right? It was very frustrating to me that I'm doing this work and I'm not seeing that change. And so I didn't feel like there was a lot of authenticity there. So I transitioned out of that. Now we're at a space here, you guys, where, hey there, Daniel, great to see you, where we are in a very critical moment in our history. We're in a very critical moment in our history. And here's one thing I will tell you about history. If you do not know your history, you are doomed to repeat it. Somebody put that in the chat. If you do not know your history, you are doomed to repeat it. This is one of the main reasons why I wanted to have this conversation tonight, because what we are seeing right now, what we are experiencing right now, I want you to know we have been here before. We have been here before. And they may have called it something different, but the same sort of reality that we're facing right now, we have faced before time and time again. So I really want to start our discussion tonight, really talking a little bit, giving you a little quick brief. No. Okay, good. It looks like my video on Facebook and all that stuff is getting janky tonight. Maybe Mark Zuckerberg don't want me to tell you what I'm about to tell you, okay? But I'm gonna try to tell you anyway, okay? And if it don't work, I'll write it down and I'll post it later, okay? But here's what I want you to understand. We've been here before. I'm gonna give you a very brief, please indulge me a few minutes while I give you a very brief overview of some history that we're repeating. Because we have got to remember this. This is why they want to burn the history books, y'all. This is why they want to take them out of our schools. This is why they want to ban books. They don't want you to know who you are. They don't want you to know who they are. Boop. Yeah, I said it. Okay. And so they're trying to make this history invisible. But I want you to know it is very, very critical that you know it. Absolutely. Absolutely. Romel says, we were told to boycott a lot of these companies back in 1995. Black Americans still fail to realize the U.S. economy is kept afloat based on our massive consumer habits. Speak the truth, Romel. Why don't you? Okay. Stop supporting companies that don't support our economic growth. Bam, 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 bam. I could not have said it by myself. Brother, man, I was getting there. But you are exactly right. Okay. Hey there, Maria. Okay. So brief history lesson. Like I said, please share this. It's important that we realize this, everything we're going to be going over tonight, you guys. I'm going to try to do this as quickly as possible. And as I said, I'm not going to I'm not going to finish everything tonight that I want to say to you, but we're starting the conversation. Okay. I want you to understand that what we are seeing right now, I would say, is we're living through Jim Crow 2.0. Okay. Jim Crow 2.0. And so I want to go back further in history, even before Jim Crow. I want to go back to the Reconstruction, post-Reconstruction era. Okay. So if we're going to go back in history, let's go all the way back. Let's go all the way back. Okay. When 1 out of 5 Black men stood up and fought for their freedom in the Civil War, when Harriet Tubman was a general in the Union Army, the first woman in American history to serve in that capacity on the battlefield in a war was Harriet Tubman, Black woman. They don't tell you that history. So please don't let anyone tell you that the reason why we're free is because Abraham Lincoln was benevolent. I'm glad that he did what he did, but we fought for our damn freedom. And they wouldn't have won the war without us. Bam. Facts. Okay? Now, what I want you to know is that after that war, we went through a period of Reconstruction, right? Now, I know we've oftentimes heard that term. You might be wondering, actually, let me sort of break down a little bit about what happened during Reconstruction. What were the policy advancements that happened during Reconstruction? What were those things that happened during Reconstruction which helped these new free men and free women be able to get a hold, get some sort of a hold in this country that was actually theirs, right? During the Reconstruction period, you had 3 amendments to the U.S. Constitution. Okay, 3 separate amendments to the U.S. Constitution. You had an amendment that abolished slavery. You had an amendment that established birthright citizenship, which, if you hear when you hear about birthright citizenship today, we hear it in relationship to immigrants. I want you to know the reason why there's birthright citizenship in this country at all is because there needed to be a way to make these people who provided centuries of free labor into this country and until that point and up through to that point, they were perceived not even as human beings, as 3/5 of America, of 3/5 of human beings in terms of the original version of the Constitution. Let's just be real. I'm going all the way back, y'all, all the way back. Okay. We needed that amendment. This was the 14th Amendment that established birthright citizenships, meaning that if you were born here, you were now American citizen. That meant that all of us who built this country, because of that amendment, were citizens. Okay. And then the 15th Amendment, which extended the franchise, meaning voting power, to Black men. Okay. So those were 3 key things that happened during Reconstruction. In addition to that, you had the development of the Freedmen's Bureau. You had the expansion, which led to the first types of public schooling that you had, particularly in the South. Okay, so this was the first time in which we were legally allowed to learn how to read, for example. Like those sorts of things happen. I know that's what he claims, Ricky, but he's not gonna be able to do that. He cannot. Trump says a lot of shit he can't do. Let's just say that. He has a lot of things he's going to try to do and a lot of things that we need to stop him from doing, okay? Because he's already done enough damage in the first administration. But birthright citizenship is a constitutional right, and you cannot nullify a constitutional right with an executive order. The devil is a lie, okay? He can't do it. All right, next thing. They had the first examples, okay? You're exactly right, Angie. They had the first examples of civil rights laws were passed in the South were passed during the Reconstruction era, okay? So this was a period, follow me when I'm saying that this is a period of advancement, okay? We had centuries of brutal oppression, of just terroristic activities, of all sorts of, people act like it's horrible what happened with the separation of families during the Trump administration. But do not let anybody lie to you to say that's the first time that's ever happened in American history. It ain't. Okay. It was just as horrid when it was happening to our families. Okay. So you had the murders, you had the rapes, you had the ripping apart of families, you had all of the, free labor under very brutal conditions, right? You had all of that, right? And it was not until the conclusion of the Civil War in which we were the decisive block of soldiers who helped to turn the tide of the war in the favor of the Union Army, okay, that you had these advancements happen. So during the Reconstruction era, that's when you had your first Black elected officials, all the way up to Black governors and Black members of Congress. Yes, that stuff happened for a brief period of time during the Reconstruction era. And then all of that came to a screeching halt, ironically, due to a presidential election. A very, very, very close presidential election, in which it was so close that there had to be a deal made in the Electoral College proceedings. And the deal that was made, and it's interesting because this wasn't even put to paper, y'all. This wasn't even put to paper. This was basically a gentleman's agreement. But the bill that was made, the deal that was made was called the Compromise of 1877. This had to do with the Rutherford B. Hayes presidency. And Rutherford B. Hayes, who was a Republican, promised that if he got the support of the Southern electors, he would pull the Union Army out, the Northern Army, out of the South, okay? Thereby allowing the Southerners to have their way, right? And that's exactly what happened. That led to the end of the Reconstruction era, which then ushered in the post-Reconstruction era. Post-Reconstruction era meant the undoing of most of the advantages that were gained via Reconstruction. I could say that the only thing that really remained, well, I will say it remained that we were still, on paper free, although of course the black codes were enforced and everything, but that's a whole nother conversation. There was a whole documentary about that. So check it out, Slavery by Another Name. But during that period, for example, voting rights were snatched away. You had the white primaries that were put in place. Voting rights were snatched away. A lot of the promises that were made to Black people, like a la 40 acres and a mule, never came about. There were reparations given, and those reparations were given to the slave owners and not the people who were enslaved. Okay, let's just be real. This is the real history, y'all. So there was advancement immediately post the fight that we had as part of the key regiments during the Civil War that led to our advancements. And then come this close election where you had that compromise of 1877 due to Rutherford B. Hayes' desire to win and the deal with the devil that he made with the Southerners. They pulled out of the South, okay? You had the post-Reconstruction era, which meant this was an era of retrenchment. So you had advancement for Black people in this nation and then retrenchment. That was also followed by a lot of additional violence and all of that. Here's something interesting, though, that happened during that period. Something interesting happened during that period. I know many of us have heard about Black Wall Streets. Have you heard about Black Wall Street? Say yes in the chat if you have. You've heard about Black Wall Streets. You heard about, well, you probably mainly have heard about Tulsa, Black Wall Street. But I want you to know there were many Black Wall Streets, meaning thriving Black communities across the nation that had very successful business owners and businesses. I mean, we were making it, okay? Most of you probably think most of that started during Reconstruction. Actually, most of that started in the post-Reconstruction era. Interesting. I say that because I want you to understand that when we were facing the backlash, when we were having the support and the extra support that we were given, that we were due, being pulled away from us, that's when we turned into one another. That's when we came together even harder and more strongly. That's when we built some of the greatest economies that we have built as Black people in this nation in our history. And we did it in our own communities. That's really when that started, as a backlash to the backlash. Does this make sense, you guys? You hear me? It happened as a backlash to the backlash. Oh, y'all want to do that? Okay. We can advance without you. That's when that happened. Now, as you know, there was ultimately a backlash to that advancement. Oh, we started getting too successful. We started to show that we didn't really need your asses. We started to show that we can build our own communities and have our own very successful entrepreneurs and doctors and teachers and lawyers and all of that. And we could do it independently and successfully. Oh, we can, in fact, be a lot more successful than a lot of you. Oh my God, people couldn't take it. Right? So then you had another backlash to that era of Black advancement. That's when you had a lot of the violence that took place, not only in Tulsa, but in Black Wall Streets all across the nation, everywhere from North Carolina to Florida to Louisiana. I mean, it happened all over the nation. In addition to that, you had other legal interventions that held us back, that started to be advanced during this time period. This is when you had a lot of the redlining laws also started to pop up. You had sort of urban renewal program started to pop up, which a lot of Black people started to call, um, instead of urban renewal, we were calling it Negro removal, when a lot of our land was being taken via eminent domain. Um, uh, Traffic, roads were being built in the middle of our communities. Our lands were being grabbed from us. All of that stuff was happening. You had a lot of displacement as a result of that. You really had a hardening of Jim Crow and segregation was happening during this period. All of that was happening. Okay. The terrorism that was associated with that period as well, the rise of the Klan, like all of that stuff was really, really, happening during this period of a backlash to Black success in the post-Reconstruction era. So we're like, okay, so you took all that away from us. That's okay. We'll build our own. And then you get upset that we're doing so good and you take that away through both, gerrymandering of the laws per se, like, as well as via violent means. All right. Okay. So then we're in that position. Ultimately, it continues. This is the heart and the soul of the Jim Crow era is happening right now. You have all sorts of atrocities that happen during this period that ultimately lead to the birth of the civil rights movement. And then as a result of the civil rights movement, you have all sorts of legal strategies that start to take place. As a result of the civil rights movement, you have legal strategies that take place that ultimately lead to advancements like the 1964 Civil Rights Act, the 1965 Voting Rights Act. Ultimately, a little bit later on and around, I believe, was 1972 when we had affirmative action became put into place as a policy. Like all of these advancements are happening, legal advancements. You have the end of segregation, thanks to laws around state commerce. Okay. So all of this stuff is happening where now a lot of these litigious structures that has held us back in terms of our ability to really be able to succeed or have opportunity and have an equal chance at opportunity as our white male counterparts were being pulled away via our hard work and our dedication, putting our bodies on the line, putting our blood in the streets, due to our legal ingenuity, right? So we started to create laws to change all of those things as a result of the hard work that we put into that. Here is what I know. It was that level of work that really shows that there had never really been a time, except for these brief windows, right? That little period during Reconstruction where Black people had opportunity, right? That you could really see a little bit closer as to what was really a fair playing field. It's never totally fair, but it was a little bit closer to it. We got a little bit closer to it then after the civil rights movement, when the doors start opening a little bit more as a result of all of those advancements that were pushed for and won during the civil rights movement. And over time, you began to see a generation emerge that begins to have greater access to things that their parents did not have access to. This is not ancient history. My parents went to segregated schools. Like, I am the first generation in my family to go to integrated schools. This is not ancient history. So when we talk about this issue of DEI and qualifications and the most qualified people, which I hate that term because 9 times out of 10 it is absolute positively bullshit. So I'm going to sit here and test Zuckerberg's non censoring thing tonight. I'm going to say exactly what I want to say. It's bullshit. Because we all know, how can you say that you have the most qualified person in any position when not everybody's allowed to compete? When it is actually your normalcy that you are suppressing the ability of a large swath of people to compete. It is a lie, and it has always been a lie. So we finally get to a point where some of us are getting the chance to compete. Not even all of us. Not even all of us. We know that the way that we do education in this country ain't fair. We know that the way that we do elementary and secondary education in this country is based on property taxes at the local level. So if you live in a poor neighborhood, guess which schools are going to get the least funding? The schools that the poor people feed into because they have the lowest property taxes. So basically, the way our education system is created anyway is meant to create a caste system. It's meant to keep the poor poor and the rich rich. Let's just be real about that too, because not everybody have equal access to the same level of education and information and networks. Let me just also say the main benefit that you get from going to school really ain't really, to some degrees, the education, but I will say to you, the biggest benefit to going to school are the networks that you can build in those institutions. God help us if you're reading a different medical book or law book in Harvard than you are at Howard, for example, or than you are at any other institution. You're reading the same ish. The differences, though, are in the networks that you can build depending upon where you are, right? So I am going to say that we're just getting to a space where we were provided an opportunity when the normalcy was to not even have us looked at, not even have us considered. And I say this as someone who will openly say, I'm a beneficiary and a proud affirmative action baby. And I say that because I understand that without it, for example, I went to University of Maryland for my doctorate degree. I was part of the people that they recruited to go there. I was being recruited to Maryland or University of Michigan, or I was considering at the time Howard, Michigan, or University of Maryland for my doctorate degree. And I will say that if affirmative action did not exist, they may not have had the impetus to come and recruit me. It doesn't mean that I wouldn't have been able to be there. It doesn't mean that I wouldn't have been able to be successful there. It means that they would likely have not even gone out to look for me. And being someone who came from a family who honestly, my parents really never even, it took them a while to even understand what a PhD was. I mean, my mom was college educated, but she had a bachelor's degree, right? And so it's not the type of thing that was to the top of the mind of my family. A lot of our children don't have opportunities, not because, or don't take advantage of opportunities, not because they don't have the ability, it's because they don't know that opportunity exists. Even now, when I think about if I knew back in college what I know now about the vast array of different career, even choices that they are, I probably would have chosen to do different things. I may have chosen to do something differently. Like I didn't even know about one of the things I've enjoyed most through my career, for example, is being able to go to various different US embassies and do trainings for women entrepreneurs all around the world, all throughout Africa, South America, the Caribbean, all these different places I've been invited to. And there I understood about a career as part of the foreign services in terms of the State Department. Like I didn't even know that existed. Had I known a career like that existed, I probably would have wanted to do that when I was younger, to be able to live in a different country every 4 years or something. That'd be kind of cool. I didn't even know that opportunity existed. So I say that to say that what affirmative action was meant to do was to provide people with opportunities who had the ability. And then I will also tell you that when you're in those spaces, you will find that there are a lot of people there that shouldn't be there based on ability, but is there because their mama, daddy, good old boy got them there. Here's what I'm saying. The attacks that we're seeing right now on DE&I is meant to take us back to that place. And it's not just about college admissions, although it includes college admissions. And we're already seeing the impact of the loss of affirmative action in college admissions. We're already seeing, for example, Harvard is saying that their incoming class of law students have about the same proportion of Black students as it did back in the 60s. 60s. So now we're talking about going back over 50 years in terms of how far they're regressing with the proportion of Black people in their class. We're already seeing evidence that medical schools are seeing a huge drop in Black students, which is particularly frightening to me because there's so much data about medical racism. We already know that, Black women are much more likely to die in pregnancy and childbirth, but that's not the only thing. I mean, there are so many examples of it with the studies in terms of how doctors just don't give the same type of care to Black people. And because of that, honestly, it just makes sense to find a Black doctor, something that I've practiced all my life for myself and for my children. So here is where I'm going with all of this. Here we are at a moment in time in which, and just to read the list, okay, if I can find the list here. It seems like we just about every day we're having another company come out to talk about their new statements around how they're pulling out of DE&I. Okay. Of course, Mark Zuckerberg was the latest. He just came out the other day saying that they are eliminating all of their DE&I programs. And interesting, then he went on Joe Rogan and said that tech needs to be less feminine. And I'm like, what tech company are you talking about? Because as far as I know about the tech field, it is a very bro-centered space, okay? But anyway, people will show you who they are when you give them the space to do it. But let me just say, Zoom, Microsoft, Google, McDonald's, Walmart, Lowe's, Ford, Harley Davidson. I could go on and on. I feel like it's a trucking company. There are others, okay? But those are the main ones that have come out so far talking about ending their DE&I programs, okay? Why should that matter? Like, does that impact you if you are not a DE&I professional? Well, yes, it does. Let me explain to you why. Okay, first of all, obviously, if you've built a business in the DE&I space, they are attacking you. There was a recent study that came out that showed that Black women businesses are already seeing a negative impact from all of the attacks on DE&I. The study has found that they typically have not received any of the benefits that companies pledged in the wake of George Floyd. So they haven't gotten the come up, and now they're finding their businesses really regress, okay? But the reason why this should matter, even if you're not in the DE&I field, okay, is that this is not just talking about trainings, okay? I think when people hear about this, they're thinking that this means that these companies are just going to end DE&I trainings. But some of them may. I mean, I'm sure they are, but that's not where it stops, okay? This means they are no longer looking to make sure that they have a good representation of people who look like you and me in the upper management of those companies, as if there was ever a good representation of us in those upper management in the first damn place. As if. Thank you for putting those down. Absolutely. Oh, Toyota too? I hadn't heard about Toyota. Here's what I want you to understand. They are doing all that. And then they're also going a step further. They're also rolling back their commitment to making sure that they have diverse suppliers. That means contractors or companies that are not white male, let's just say that, okay, who they buy from, who they secure products and services from. That goes well beyond the D&I trainers, folks. Okay. That's anybody that wants to do business with those companies in any capacity. All right. Hey there. Actually, I need to get back to you. They are not, they are being very clear that they want to get rid of any programs that is meant to make sure that they have a good diversity of individuals to provide services to their company or to purchase products from for their company or to have contracts with their company. There are ripple effects to this that I think we need to be aware of and that people aren't talking about enough. This is the level of devastation that this can bring to what was a burgeoning and what has been a burgeoning Black middle class is massive. And here's another thing I will say about this. Those of you who are out here already doing the damn thing with your businesses, if your business is doing well and you are the first in your family to build a successful business, let us also recognize that it is commonplace that if you are doing well with your business, you're not just taking care of your immediate family. Can somebody say amen? Is there somebody here who's also taking care of an aunt, an uncle, a sibling, a mother, a father, like a niece, a nephew? It is not unusual that because of all of the oppression that we have experienced through our time here, the ones that have been able to burst through, we have gone back commonly to help others. So it's not just the one person and their family that you're impacting. You're impacting all of the families and all of the other individuals that person helps. I want you to understand that what we are experiencing right now is a straight out attack on Black people, on Black economic power, on Black economic advancement, political and economic advancement, actually, but definitely economic advancement. And you need just listen to the rhetoric. All of this crap that they keep saying about DE&I hires, all of the racist political rhetoric that is going on right now in the face of the fires in California. You have to call them on that shit. The next time somebody says that to you, just go ahead and tell them, like I always do when it's about, are you really trying to say that the only person that can do this is a white male? And if you are, have the balls to say it then, damn it. Now, let's also acknowledge that it doesn't mean that white men do what the fuck they know what the fuck they're doing, because oftentimes they don't. Look at not only look at who will be the incoming president, but look at all the folks that he has surrounded himself with. And it's interesting how the issue of qualifications never comes up. Doesn't come up that his incoming vice president, who is one heartbeat away from the presidency, has only held political office for less than 2 years, for less than 24 months. He is the most inexperienced vice president that we've had in this nation's history. But nobody talks about his qualifications. How about, old boy that he wants to put head of the Department of Defense, who has a drinking problem, who's never run anything massive in his life, and of the nonprofits that he did run, he ran them into the ground. But let's not talk about the fact that he's not qualified. White maleness is not qualifications, but you would think it is. And so when you're in a situation where people will tell you, because people will try to gaslight you, and they will say, well, I don't want to discriminate against anybody. I just want the best person to have the opportunity and the best person to have the job. Well, no shit, Sherlock. That's what we've been saying for fucking centuries. But what happens is, in practice, what happens is The good old boy network is used to give opportunities to whom they would like to have opportunities for. And then if that person is a white person who is a man, then no one ever questions the qualifications. But if it's anybody else, oh my God, DE&I hire. I'll give you an example, that just a personal example that I had back from my teaching days. I used to be a college professor. Trump was in a serious pride his first arm. Absolutely, Trump. Yeah, he never had no public office at all. You're exactly right. Exactly right. He's inexperienced. He's definitely unqualified. Oh my God. You can already tell. Oh my God. But I want to talk really quickly, and then I'm going to move back to what I want to talk about in terms of where we go from here. After I just had to vent first, you guys. I'm sorry, I just had to vent. So I remember back in the day when I was a tenure track professor, and I served on my first committee for the hire of a new professor in the department. I remember being in those conversations as people were going over people's CVs, publications that they've, things that they had published, their backgrounds, like their, all the things that you judge people by when they're looking to be a college professor. And I remember going through that and looking to see, and I saw how, as to remove memberships with, yep. I believe that, Brewer Foundation. I believe it. I remember being in those discussions where I was the only Black person on the committee. Okay. And I'm looking at the quality of the applicants coming in, and I'm seeing a hell of a lot of very, very, very quote unquote qualified, absolutely very impressive. I'm gonna go beyond the word qualified. Very impressive Black candidates coming in, but somehow they never seem, I could never convince my colleagues that they deserved an invite to an interview. Now they did want to interview someone, but they wanted to interview what I would call the Black Star. So the Black Star, it was the one person that was graduating that year in our field who was like perceived to be the top-notch person who was being recruited by every other major university. And it's only one of them, so they can only accept one job. Right. But all these other wonderful Black people, okay, who honestly were more impressive than a lot of the white guys that they wanted to bring in to interview. But you know what? They knew so-and-so, and so-and-so knew them, and so-and-so knew his dad, and da-da-da-da-da. Are y'all seeing what I'm saying? Are y'all picking up what I'm putting down? So they wanted to go after the Black Star, but so I guess that made them feel better that they at least were saying they had a Black person in the midst, but they knew good and damn well that they'd have to be competing against all the other colleges and universities that wanted to recruit that one person that was seen to be as the top graduate that year, right? The magical Negro, they wanted that one that everybody else is going after, okay? And then you're exactly right, nepotism. Then from there on, it's like, well, so-and-so's son is here, and we should bring him in because we should give him a chance. And I'm thinking, fucking why? I'm looking at his very unimpressive transcripts. I'm looking at this very unimpressive publication. Well, not even publication, just ish that he's written. I don't even. I want you to understand that is the reality of what we are seeing, what we will be seeing, and what we're seeing now. I say all this to say this is where they want to go back to. When they say they want to have a space where there is greater emphasis on qualifications, I want you to understand that it is a lie. They want to go back to a time where they could, in an unhampered and an unhampered way, be able to tilt the game to their favor. They don't want an open playing field. They don't want equal opportunity. They want unfair, invisible advantages. That's what the desire is. And this is why they're going after DE&I right now, right? So what should we do? Wow. Oh, wow. What should we do? I've spent a lot of time thinking about this, y'all. I've spent a lot of time thinking about this. I don't know. I've been a little quiet on social media. I've been spending a lot of time thinking and researching and writing and really kind of absorbing and thinking about the next way forward, because I do see this, in all honesty, I see this as a watershed moment for us. I see this as a Jim Crow 2.0. But then I had an epiphany today. And I was thinking, when have we ever faced a challenge in which we didn't find the creativity and the ingenuity in order to find a way to overcome that challenge and to end up better on the other side? When has that ever happened? It's never happened. We come from fighters. We fight back. We win. We may not win forever because they changed the rules. But then we still fight back. We come back and we win. So what does that look like in this moment? And especially right now when we have, and I will say it, a white supremacist that's about to go back into the Oval Office. What does that look like when we have someone who is looking to appoint white supremacists throughout his entire cabinet system? What does that look like in this moment? And I thought about, I had a friend, I was talking about this with a friend of mine, and he mentioned this word renaissance. We need a renaissance. And I was thinking a couple of weeks ago, I was in New York with my sons and we were in Harlem. And I specifically wanted to show them Harlem. They'd been to New York before, but we'd never taken them to Harlem. And I wanted to take them to Harlem and take them to the Schomburg. And we literally stayed in a beautiful hotel right beside the Apollo Theater that the whole theme of the hotel was the Harlem Renaissance. They had all sorts of photographs and images of these key people from the Harlem Renaissance, everybody from Cab Calloway to Billie Holiday and everybody in between. And I'm thinking, what we need now is something akin to a Harlem Renaissance, but a little bit different. What made the Harlem Renaissance powerful was that you had this conglomeration of Black creatives, artists, musicians, poets, writers, like all of this beautiful brilliance, Black brilliance that's concentrated in this one area. And they served as a point of inspiration for one another, and they created beauty that lasts to this day. I mean, it was incredible. We need a Black Renaissance akin to that. But I would argue that the Black Renaissance that we need at this moment really has to happen with Black businesses, because we need the economic power that comes out of that. Imagine if we had a Renaissance, a Black Renaissance that really focused on us thinking about how can we really tap our creativity, our ingenuity, our brilliance in a way that allowed us to not just survive this moment, that allowed us to not seek to merely have a slice of the pie or to be sort of integrated into this moment. What if we put our brains together and our networks together to figure out what parts of this market can we absolutely, positively fucking dominate? Market domination. We need to seek market domination versus market integration. Are you hearing what I'm saying? Let me break that down a little bit. As Glorilla would say, let me cook for a moment on that one, okay? What I mean by market domination is, I remember when I was in graduate school and we were learning about this thing called ethnic niches. Has anybody heard about that term before, ethnic niches? Right? Think about it. There are certain areas in the economy. Bruce says, cook, sis. Yes. Ethnic niches refers to specific spaces within the economy where certain ethnicities dominate that ish. Let me give you an example. In DC, Ethiopians dominate the fucking parking lot niche. Okay, I dare you to find a parking lot in DC that's not owned by an Ethiopian. And God bless them, okay? I ain't even mad at them, okay? But that is their niche. That is a niche that they have gone in and dominated. You know, some people might say that, hell, ironically, black beauty supply stores are largely a, Asian niche, oftentimes in many communities. I want us to think about what niches can we dominate. That's one thing. And then I also want to think about how can we recreate the Black Wall Street reality by coming together regardless of niche, right? How can we do that? What made Black Wall Streets thrive was the fact that we were able to circulate our dollars over and over and over and over again in those spaces. And just as harmful as the violence was to the success of those, and we will always remember that, have yet to be compensated for it. But another way in which those economic powerhouses were undermined, frankly, was via integration. Not going to say that I want segregation, but what I will say is that we can buy from each other. We can make intentional actions. We can make that an intentional act to support one another's businesses. We can also collaborate more. We can build partnerships more. We can come together more to go after bigger opportunities. We don't have to do everything by ourselves. Absolutely, Green Book. A collective self-determination. Absolutely, that's true. It was killed during integration. We need to bring it back. So what I'm saying here is, you're exactly right, but we don't own them. A lot of the music, we don't really, even a lot of the quote unquote Black labels, if you go even deeper, it's not really Black people at the root in terms of the ownership of that. I will say we need to figure out how can we build community and connection in a way that allows us to link arms with one another, go after bigger pieces of the pie, and win. It's going to require a lot of things, though, for us to do this. We're going to have to approach this a little bit differently than we've approached it before. And I will continue to talk about that more tomorrow night. Okay? Because I could go on forever. And I feel like I've already been on here way too long. But here is what I will say. There are some things that we all need to do with our businesses to prepare to compete in this new market. We're going to have to be, we cannot afford to enter the new market, sort of this post DEI, affirmative action, whatever you want to call it, this white backlash market, the same as we approached it prior to this backlash that we are dealing with. But what we do need to do is have the commitment to say, what it will take for me to get there, I need to commit to making it happen. Because what I really want to happen, and just call me petty for saying this, but I will be petty, okay? I want our comeback, our bounce back, our payback to this moment to be so big and so bad and so overwhelming. They will rue the day. They will rue the day they came for our economic well-being. I consider this to be a personal attack on our economic survival. Period. And I don't know about you, but I am pissed the hell off. And when you have moments like this, when you are being attacked, you have two choices. There are two choices that you have. It's either fight or flight. And I don't know about you, but I have not run from a fight in my life, and I will not start today. It ain't starting now. But it will require something different from you, from me, from all of us. This next chapter will require something different from us. It will require something more from us. It will require an accelerated level of excellence from us. It will require new strategies from us. It will require us to not only be better, but be wider and deeper in terms of who we're connecting with and what we are doing. It's your future has got to look different from your past in order for you to survive in this market, period, point blank. I love it, woman philosophy. She says, I want our moves to break them. If we circulate our dollars principally within our community, that is what will happen to them. You are exactly right, girl, because you realize how much money we are giving our foes. Even with the list that I gave you guys at the beginning in terms of these specific companies, we got to make different choices, y'all. We got to make different choices, y'all. If you're not gonna, if you're gonna make any purchases outside the Black community, let it be with Costco and not with Walmart, for example. We got to make different choices. You know, if you're going to go out here, and even me with social media, I'm going to put in Facebook and LinkedIn, I'll be giving you my link to LinkedIn. Facebook and Instagram. I'll be putting my link to LinkedIn in there for you on my bio and Instagram, and on this post in Facebook, because I'm going to be doing more. I mean, I want you to follow. I want you to connect with me on LinkedIn, you guys, because that's where I'm going to eventually be sort of transitioning more and more to. I'm going to be ending my little check mark thing on Facebook and Instagram because he ain't getting no monthly payments from me. Like, we got to start making some different choices, right? And then beyond that, we have to say, how can we form these connections, these networks, these partnerships, these collaborative opportunities that allows all of us to win? And just like you, sis, I want to break them. They will rue the day that they went for your economic survival, for your ability to provide for your family and all of those people who depend on you each and every day. They will rue the day, but it will require something more from you, bigger from you, something a little bit different from you. I'm going to start to break that down for you tomorrow, but I at least wanted to start this discussion tonight to let you know that we have done this before. We have come back before, bigger and better, when they thought they had the upper hand. It happened in the post-Reconstruction period when we started creating Black Wall Streets all across this nation. It happened in the post-Civil Rights movement when we started to have Black business success. We started to have a Black middle class to grow and a Black upper middle class and finally upper class grow. We started to have some Black billionaires even. I mean, all this stuff has happened post the civil rights movement. And what they need to understand is they can try to pull the rug out from under us again, but they cannot match our creativity, our ingenuity, our hard work, our determination. But we got to do it differently. We got to up level. We got to do some things differently. So I'll be joining you here tomorrow night around the same time. And we'll start the process of talking to you about some of the things that we need to do differently and how we can make that happen. All right. So join me here tomorrow. Looking to be here on 7 o'clock tomorrow night again, where I'm going to start breaking this down. What we need to do now, the new way forward. Did I cook it? I cooked. I'm glad to see that. All right, you guys. I love it. Yes, let's say fan base. Absolutely. Woman Flash says she's moving to Spoutable. I hadn't heard about that one. And fan base. Absolutely. Now, I do know about fan base more than Facebook and Threads. They are Black owned. Absolutely. Dwight says, what I cannot accept is the fact that throughout the United States and during COVID-19, the entire world has no choice but to watch the death of George Floyd. When all other protesting started, that is about that life, protesting the faces of police officers that also knew that the of George Floyd was murder and it was wrong. Now the problem I saw was some of the members of our community that didn't have our understanding of what was going on. Oh man, and it won't let me see the whole thing. Oh man, it cut you off, Dwight. But as soon as I get off of here, I'm gonna go and finish reading what you wrote because I liked where you were going with it. Okay. With that said, great seeing you guys tonight, you all. Please remember to join me tomorrow night. I'm gonna try to cook some more tomorrow, but not food because I'm not the best, honestly. Ask my son. He's so sweet. He don't complain, but I know. I'm trying. He's home from college. With that said, you guys, I hope y'all have a wonderful, wonderful Sunday evening. And I will check you back here tomorrow night at 7. We're going to continue to talk about next how we need to up level to get to that next level at this moment. Okay. With that said, I hope y'all have a good evening. I will see you tomorrow. Bye, everybody. See you later.